Hey basketball coaches, today I'm going to be talking to you about when it's a great time in game to run a zone defense versus a man-to-man defense. Okay, so just really quickly, a zone defense is when your players are guarding an individual area of the court and not a specific player on the other team. Now, the great thing with a zone defense is there are double team locations anytime or anywhere, that there is an overlap in their zones. So, for example, if player 1 has the ball in the low post, in theory, player 5, player 3 should also be guarding him. Player 4 will then go into the low block. Player 2 will be guarding the kick-out pass, and player 1 will be guarding the skip pass. While a man-to-man defense is guarding an individual player, so you'll be having one-on-one defense, but make sure to teach your team help defense as well. However, going from there, when should you be using a zone defense and when should you be using a man-to-man defense? This is a question that so many coaches have a hard time answering, and I have a hard time trying to choose and pick and what they should really run. So number one, you should not be running a zone defense all game. No matter what age group you're in, you should not be running a zone defense all game. Meanwhile, you should also not be running a man-to-man defense all game if your league allows you to run a zone. So I know right away there's going to be a lot of coaches who are ticked off because they don't like zone defenses at a young age. I know there's also a lot of coaches who just say, well, I just run a 2-3 zone, whatever. They're 9 years old. Nobody's going to score on a 2-3 zone. I'm going to tell you right now, that's false. And if there's more coaches who knew how to beat a 2-3 zone, you would not be running it all game. But there's a reason why you want to move between the two. So number one, by moving between the two, they're going to be playing a zone defense when they get older. They're going to be playing a man-to-man defense when they're older. And by understanding the concepts of both, they're able to learn both. But I'm going to tell you right now, number one, they should learn a man-to-man defense, mainly because they should learn a man-to-man defense at first, because it's going to help them understand how to run a zone defense. So by teaching a man-to-man defense, and I'm going to do that really quickly, just quickly, it's called the shell drill. But by teaching them the man-to-man defense with help defense, they're going to understand the concepts of zone defense a bit better. So let me just show you the shell drill really quickly. If you don't want to see the shell drill, you already know it, just fast forward like 30 seconds. Okay, so in a man-to-man defense, there's help defense. Right now, player 1 has the ball, man on. Player 4 does not have the ball, same as player 2. They should be one pass away. What that means is just basically one big step away. Next is players 3 and 5. They are 2 passes away, which means that these 2 defensive players should be 2 large steps away. So that would be 1 step, that would be 2 steps. Same here, 1 step, 2 steps. And because of that, that is called help defense. Now, depending on how you coach and depending on the level, player 1 drives, that should be player 4 who cuts him off. Personally, no matter what age group that I'm coaching, that's how I like to coach. However, it sometimes will not be like that, and what we'll have is player 1 drive, player 3 will then cut off, and that allows player 1 to pass out to player 3, and player 4 would have to move down to guard 2 players. That's why I don't like to run help defense that way, but some coaches do. If the ball gets passed over to player 4, what we're going to see is player 3 was 2 steps away. Now he's going to be 1 step away. Player 1 was man on, but now he's going to be 1 step away. Player 2 is going to be 2 steps away, and player 5 is going to be 2 steps away as well, roughly in that low block. This way, if player 4 was to drive towards the rim, we would have player 5 able to then play help defense on player 4. Player 2 will then move down, guarding both of these players, preferably looking in this direction with his hands out like this, understanding that, well, player 5 is not cutting off player 5's baseline drive, but also cutting off the pass to player 5, but also in a good enough position where if player 4 was to pass out to player 2, he'd be able to cut that off. So let me show you really quickly why understanding and teaching your players a man-to-man defense first helps them with a zone defense. I'm going to pop up a 2-3 zone because that is the most popular zone defense ran at a younger age group right now, just so you can see how things work. So this is a 2-3 zone. Obviously, they've got their zones that they are defending. However, what we're going to see, let's say player 4 has that ball right now. Player 1 is going to be moved over. We're going to see player 3 in deny, player 2 in deny, player 5 guarding that post, player 4 guarding in. So many players at a young age, and so many coaches, I'm not too sure if they're teaching them the players this way or if they're just not fixing it. But what you'll see a lot of the time is, oh, this is my area. I need to go out there. Meanwhile, player 2 is way over here. Player 3 is nowhere near deny. And they're really cutting off the baseline. They're really cutting off the key. And it is an okay strategy when you're talking about 9-year-olds because 9-year-olds really generally cannot shoot from that distance. But you're really cutting off the key. And that might be the reason why you'll see these players running a 2-3 zone like this. You'll have player 4 pass over to 3. Player 3 will pop out and you'll see like just a zone defense that works like this. And really, to be honest, the easiest way is just to tell your players, hey, move into a 5-out, get the ball into that low corner, have player 2 cut. That's easy. And now you're just going to pass into player 2. You're going to see players who are now collapsing. If they're a really stagnant zone, player 4 is not going to be moving. You're going to have player 5 cut towards the middle of the key. It's a really easy way of beating it. If you've got the ability to teach your players, just get the ball to the paint and try and get double teams. It's quite easy to beat a zone defense if you're playing against a stagnant zone. And every single time I see teams running a really stagnant zone, it just makes me want to really coach at the 9-year-old age group and get like 40 wins and 0 losses, because if you can teach your team how to get the ball to the paint if they're playing against the zone, you're going to be winning a ton of games. That's just it. Just get the ball to the paint. Going from there, when you should be running a zone. If the other team is really beating you really hard in the low post, a 2-3 zone at the younger age group is going to really, really take care of that. Unless that's when the other coach tells them the strategy that I just told you. And in that case, you want to switch back into a man-to-man defense. You shouldn't be running a zone defense all game. You shouldn't be running the same defensive strategy all game. Even though I've got the Unbeatable basketball defense book, and I know some coaches run that all game, that specific book, that specific defense takes a ton of energy out of your players. You should really only be running it maybe 2 quarters, 3 quarters a game at max. But generally speaking, how I like to coach, I have never coached the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old age group. I've always coached grade 8s and older. And basically, when you're looking at that, at least at the level I was coaching at, you could pretty well easily run every 2 possessions. You can say, hey, 2-3 zone right now. You can call out, you can literally have 3 defenses going at grade 8 and older. You can say, Unbeatable defense, which is my own. We call that number 1. Number 2 is a 2-3 zone. And then number 3 is man-to-man. That's what we do. And if I say defense 3, that means pick up a man. If I say defense 1, they already know where they're supposed to be. If I say defense 2, they already know where they're supposed to be. Because they know where they're supposed to be. Because I'll tell them, hey, you're subbing in for Johnny. Go ask Johnny what he's doing. Where is he on defense and who is he guarding? Very simple. And if he says, I'm 4 and I'm guarding 6, that's simple. Simple if you're dealing with grade 8s and older. It may be a bit different when you're younger or coaching younger teams, but that's just my strategy. You don't want to run the same defense because the other team, if they're smart, they'll be able to strategize around it no matter what age group. So just keep that in mind. It's really easy. Teams really only need 1 play. That's it. They just need 1 play on offense. A 5-out, pass, cut, screen, whatever. Read the defense. Simple. So that's why you should never be running the same defense. You should always be changing it. You shouldn't be running the 2-3 zone your whole career. That's just my own opinion. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate. I hope I don't. I hope that I've at least helped you with something. If I have, comment below. I'll see you guys in my next video.